Hi, today let's calculate comparative advantage together and let's learn what that means. Here I have a definition, really important, write this down, be really helpful later on. Country has comparative advantage when it can produce a good or a service, it doesn't matter what good, what service, could be cars, could be boats, at a lower opportunity cost in another country. And opportunity cost, you might see slightly different definitions. For this example, for this video, I've decided to define it this way, which in this simplified world is perfectly fine. So it's what you give up when you make a choice. So we'll use that. So be sure to write that down. And in the simplified example, I'm going to have country A making pens or pencils. And I've got a table here showing maximum production possibilities. And that's super key to highlight. What does that mean? That means what you see here, country A can make supposedly 40 pens. That means using all of its resources. So at the most, country A can make 40 pens. And it cannot make any pencils because it's used all of its resources in making pens. That's what this table shows. I mean, the table isn't great to illustrate that's what's going on, but hopefully the graph makes it a little bit more clear. Country A, if it dedicated all of its resources instead on pencils, it can only make 4 in this hypothetical situation. So this again is another point on their maximum production possibility frontier, where country A can make 4 pencils and 0 pens if it uses all of its resources. And what this table doesn't really show so nicely is that they don't have to produce at these corners where they're making just one good, just pencils or just pens. They could produce a mixture, any kind of combination, but they'd be losing out on one of their goods. There'll be a trade-off, there'll be an opportunity cost. So that's what the table is just showing us there. So let's see what happens when country A wants to go from a 0 pencil world to a 1 pencil world. So let's say country A wants to go from 0 to 1 pencils. What's going to happen? So they're going from 40 pens and no pencils, and then they'll end up here, which is 30 pens and 1 pencil. So what have they lost out on? That's going to be our opportunity cost. So by having 1 more pencil, country A has lost out on 10 pens. That's the opportunity cost. And that's what we're going to work out for the rest of this video. So we're just warming up here, getting to know kind of what these charts do and what they look like. Let's try one more example. So if country A decides to go from a 1 pencil world to a 2 pencil world, what's the consequence? They've had to dedicate more resources towards making pencils, and so in that case, they can't make as many pens anymore. In fact, they can only make 20 pens and 2 pencils. What have they sacrificed? They've gone from a 30 pen world to a 20 pen world, so they've sacrificed again 10 pens. And it's going to be the same 10 pen sacrifice each time the country wants 1 more pencil. That's because the PPF is straight. So you can just write that down. Whenever a PPF is straight, whenever that is straight, you will always face the same trade-off. The same 10 pens have to be sacrificed. That's going to lead to a really cool shortcut later on, which I'll show you. So hang on in there, this is going to get really interesting. Just to be clear, you can show opportunity costs in the other direction. So let's have a look and let's think about this country, instead of going for more pencils, decides to go for more pens. The country starts from a situation where they have 4 pencils and no pens. And let's say that they just want 1 pen. 1 pen does it. So if they go to a 1 pen situation, if you can imagine they're going to lose out a tiny amount of pencils. They're going to go from 4 pencils to, I reckon, 3.9 pencils to get to 1 pen. So what's been the opportunity cost? 0.1 pencils, which, because it's a straight PPF, will always be the same sacrifice. So I could phrase this as 1 in 10 pencils have to be sacrificed for every 1 pen. And I've got that written down here to be sure that's in your notes. And I've even got that written down here in the table. So again, for country A to make 1 pen, they have had to sacrifice 1 in 10 pencils. And we saw that going up along their PPF. And to make 1 pencil, they have had to sacrifice 10 pens. This is just the working out. This isn't opportunity cost yet. If you were actually to be asked about opportunity cost, it's so much better to write this down. So this should really be how you phrase opportunity cost. You should actually state the goods that you've lost out on. So country A has lost out on 1 in 10 pencils, or 0.1 pencils for every pen. And country A, to make 1 pencil, lost out on 10 pens. So you actually write what they lost out on into the table. That is your opportunity cost. It's not really in money, it's not a price, it's what you sacrificed. And let's have a go at do it for country B, but this time we're going to make 1 change. We're not going to do it like unit by unit on a graph. Instead, I'm going to show you the shortcut, which works because this is a straight PPF. Remember, everything was constant all the time. So that gives us this really neat shortcut, which makes it easier for when the numbers get a little bit trickier. So what I do to work out the opportunity cost, we've got country B to do. So we've got country B I've written down here, can make, remember, 30 pens or 0 pencils and 0 pencils. Or it could make 2 pencils and 0 pens. Or it could make any combination along the PPF. Right, so draw that, practice that. It's really worth taking a break and making sure you are really confident, feeling really good, because as you can see in this video, it's going to be a foundation to understand what's coming up next, but also it's going to lead on to the next video. And so it's really good to have some secure foundations with that. So the shortcut is for country B, this is how I do it, write down the trade-off, just as it is in the table. So right now country B can make 2 pencils or 30 pens. I've kind of written the word or. I don't tend to write the word or, I just kind of write two kind of dots to illustrate that. Now to get to the opportunity cost of 1 pencil, I need to write down how much 1 pencil means in pens. So right now I have 2 pencils. To get it down to 1, I need to divide both sides by 2. That's what I mean there. If you divide both sides by 2, you're not changing you're not changing the maths behind it very much. It's still true as it was before. You're just making it more presentable into the format that you want. And now here I know that making 1 pencil means for country B, they sacrifice 15 pens. And that means the opportunity cost of 1 pencil is 15 pens. What's my final answer? It's the actual thing you sacrifice, so you should write 15 pens. And let's repeat to find out how much 1 pen costs. So this time the pen is on the right hand side, and I have a situation where I've got 30 pens So to get it down to 1 pen, I need to divide both sides by 30 this time. And then if you do that, you will find that 1 pen means sacrificing, it's a cool number, 1 divided by 15 pencils. I wrote it as a fractional. For me it was easier. You could write it as a decimal, as your calculator just gives you kind of the output. Maybe to 1 decimal point is okay, maybe to 2 to be safe. And so the opportunity cost of 1 pen is 1 divided by 15 pencils, and that's what you would write in the opportunity cost question. And here's a summary. So we've got country A, country B's opportunity cost to make 1 pen and 1 pencil. Now we can apply the definition of comparative advantage, which is a country has comparative advantage over another when it can produce a good or a service at a lower opportunity cost than the other. And we are so lucky, we've done the hard work to get the opportunity cost. This is going to be really nice and easy. So let's take a look at pen production. We compare country A and country B to make 1 pen. It turns out that 1 divided by 15 is a smaller number than 1 divided by 10. So that means country B can make pens cheaper than country A because they sacrifice fewer pencils. So what we say here is B can make pens at a lower opportunity cost, which then is going to mean that country B has comparative advantage in pens. And then let's repeat for the other good, for pencils. So to make a pencil, country A loses out on 10 pens and country B loses out on 15 pens. As a result, country A sacrifices fewer pens. So A can make pencils at a lower opportunity cost, and so we say A has comparative advantage in pencils compared to country B. And that is how you calculate opportunity cost. You can use the point method that we did in the beginning on the PPF. And when the numbers aren't so clear, you could always use the ratio method that I did and divide both sides to get it to the 1 pencil or the 1 pen format. The comparative advantage theory suggests A should specialize in their comparative advantage, which is pencils, so they should make only pencils. And B should specialize and make only what their comparative advantage is, which is pens. And it turns out if they trade with each other, really interesting stuff happens, and I'll explain this on the video coming up. I think I separated it because I think it's a bit extension, that video, but I found it super useful when I went through this. Kind of the first time I didn't understand how comparative advantage made the country suddenly better off. And for me, it was just a really nice thing to just understand how that works. So I've added that in. It won't be super useful for you. It'd be unlikely perhaps to get asked something like that. But if you're interested, take a look at the next video where I will show you that they will be better off if they trade and specialize in their comparative advantage. And I'll show you what the graphs will look like at the end, so you can see that the PPF really does shift out. So that's it for this video. Click on the next video to look at how that trade deal happens and how it actually makes them better off. Okay, bye!